timer up at the top, but in the meantime, as you guys trickle in, if you have any questions, if you have anything, like literally almost anything about today's lesson, you can go ahead and just shoot it in the chat. Yeah, we know that it was muted. I know I wasn't buying toilet paper, I swear. I was actually just checking out my Twitter, seeing that I had posted about this so everybody can know that it's live. So if you guys have anything, are you getting ganked in your own lane? We can solve that here. We can solve that here. In fact, actually, we'll teach you how to gank people in a lane that's not your own. So it's actually going to be pretty relevant today. So we'll see. Good luck, homie. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Why is Nico bad? Because they didn't make her a jungler. I actually think Nico should be a jungler, 100%. Like, when I play Nico jungle, she's so much fun. You get to pretend to be the other laner when he's low and they back, and then you can just go ahead and gank in the lane. So, memes aside, I actually think she should be a jungler. They should probably push her that way. She's got really good CC. She's got a way to deceive people. She's got a really unique gank path by pretending to be a laner. And I just think overall it would probably be healthier for her. So, they can't hear me? Wait a second. Somebody said they can't hear me. I think he's trolling. Silveram, I think you're trolling. Issue is I don't die top, but all lanes lose. Yeah, that's something that we're going to try to help you with today, and that's going to be very relevant, especially if you're a top laner, because a lot of top laners feel like they don't have agency, and top lane is an island, and I kind of want to help you solve that problem here today. So, it's too quiet. Muted. We can hear. The guy's trolling. All right. See, that's the thing. There's some of you that are trolls, and I'll accept that. But regardless, we're going to start right now. The class is finally live. Thank you guys so much for coming here today. Today, we're going to be talking about unpredictability. What is unexpected? So first and foremost, we have to talk about what is expected. So the most expected thing to do, just flat out, is the highest percentage chance of what's going to happen. So, for example, if you are a jungler, what route do you expect people to go for? Like, just straight up, what route do you expect people to go for when you see that there's a jungler on the other side? What do you expect them to do? So in chat, you can go ahead and write that down. I'll read your answers in just a second here, because usually you're expecting somebody to either do one of two things. They're either going to level 3 gank, or they're going to hard farm, right? Or they're going to go red, gromp, red, blue, gromp, do 3 camps, gank, right? So you're expecting a level 3 gank, and if they start at bottom side, you probably expect them top side for the gank, right? So there's ways to switch this up. There's ways to help your laners before that. There's ways to catch people off guard and get more for that. So people are saying red, blue, gromp, exactly. Depends, blue is power farm, red, blue, gromp, exactly. Like, so the most common answer I'm seeing here is red, blue, gromp, gank level 3. So that's a predictable thing, right? Everybody can predict that. Sure, people die to that all the time because they aren't actually thinking when that level 3 comes around, but you know what's gonna happen, right? You have an idea. So today we're gonna be talking about how to switch that up to get you elo very quickly. And I think this works at all elos. And in fact, it just comes down to what you expect people to do. And the more knowledge you have of the game, the more effective this is going to be. And it's all about seeing from the other person's perspective. So let's just start right off the bat. After we just talked about what predictability is and unpredictability, we're gonna talk about an example of this. And I think a pro player that pretty much embodies this example is Peanut. So we're actually gonna take a look here at Game 3 of the World Championship quarterfinal in 2016 between Fox and EDG. And I think this is a prime example here because someone like Peanut, he made his entire career off of being not a loose cannon, but really calculated insanity in a sense, where he would go for these plays and people would be like, how did that work out? Why was he there? And it's the unpredictable thing, because everybody knows that a jungler is gonna go for a level 2 or a level 3 gank, but the route in which you take is what can give you that unpredictable element. And if you're playing against challenger players and you're playing against pro players, these people know almost all the routes. They've almost experienced everything. So they're prepared in some way for what you're going to do. So you just have to go for things that have a lower percentage chance of being what's predicted. So let's talk about that here. And that may sound very confusing, but please stick with me as we go through this example. So as we go through this example, we're gonna see here, what ends up happening is the mid lane, we see Scout, he's gonna go for very early, take away a Raptor to get level 2 after the first push. But you can see the junglers on the bottom right of the screen. Olaf Clearlove has actually gone for a blue into Wolves, into going across the mid lane or to get to the other side. But what Peanut's done is Peanut has actually done neither of his buffs. He's done Gromp and Wolves. And now he's going immediately mid. He has no blue buff, goes mid, goes after Scout here, helps him out. And then they're able to, not seeing, hold on, 1 second. Are people not seeing this? You're good? All right, there's trolls in the chat, but I care about everybody seeing this, so regardless. Okay, so what just happened there? And I guess I'll trust production. I'll trust you, Mikey. I'll trust you. I'll trust that he's got this squared away. So, even though he misses Q, they still got the flash out. They still almost kill Scout, but Peanut came from an unpredicted route. But that's just one aspect of this. Clear Love Ghosts comes in. Now, this here is the setup. And I want everybody to pay attention to this, because we're not just talking about tracking here, right? Peanut, the last time he is actually seen here is through mid lane, going off to the side. So Peanut goes off to the side. So what can you expect on the minimap? You can expect Peanut to maybe go to his Raptors, to his Red, to his Crumbz, maybe even to his Scuttle Crab, maybe even do Dragon, right? But they know, because he doesn't have his blue buff, that his blue buff is up. And you see Clear Love go to the top side. He's gonna come back around, and we'll see that right here, actually. You're gonna see it here, where Clear Love is going to loop back around, shove the mid lane for his mid laner Scout, throw an axe, get them low, then he goes off to the side. He knows that he didn't take blue buff on Peanut's side. So what's gonna happen here is, if you watch the minimap, is Olaf goes to the enemy blue. He's gonna go pick that up. But watch what Peanut does. Peanut went to his Raptors, and then he didn't even go to his red, he didn't go to his blue, he goes straight across. He went a really awkward route. He went an incredibly awkward route. He went from his Gromp to his Wolves to mid lane to out of mid lane towards the bottom side. But he knew that the last time that they saw him was going bot side. So Peanut said, where's the last place they'll expect me? He goes, I'm gonna take Raptors, and then I'm going to go up into his red, and I'm actually going to invade the opposite side of the jungle from which they saw me exit. And that's really important to keep in mind here, because that's what's gonna catch Clear Love off guard. So what Peanut does is Peanut goes, and he goes, wait, he didn't go straight to his red. So where must he have gone? He must have gone to my blue. Maybe he's gonna go do Scuttle. And Peanut optimizes his time by waiting a little bit, goes to the Crumbz, kills the Crumbz in the meantime. So he's optimizing, he's making sure that he's not losing a lot for this. Clear Love goes ahead, kills the Scuttle Crab, goes to the Raptors, and what Smeb did in the meantime is Smeb shoved the top lane, and instead of giving away and tilting his hand that he's going to actually go for an invade, he pushes the wave, and instead of going down immediately, he goes back out of vision and then down and through the tri-brush. And that's really important, because he's not tilting his hand that he's going for an invade. He just backed up, which means he could be doing anything. He could be backing, he could be sitting in a bush, he could be going and warding and looking for the Scuttle Crab maybe to find Clear Love. But instead, he goes immediately into the tri-brush, he teams up with Peanut, and they wait. And the last thing that Olaf expects here is actually to be invaded and killed at his red buff. Because the last time he saw Lee Sin was on the bottom side of the map. So Lee Sin could have gone for a Raptors, a Red, a Scuttle Crab, a Dragon, something like that. But the advantage of actually shutting down the enemy jungle is the play that Peanut went for here, and it seems absolutely ludicrous that instead of getting his own red buff, or his Scuttle Crab, or even his Dragon, or anything like that on the bottom side of the map, he goes for the unpredicted play. He goes for the play that is very unlikely to be something that the enemy expects him to do. And I think that is so powerful in all elos. Now, one thing that I really want to touch on here for you guys is that you don't want to do this and have it blow up in your face. Now that sounds really easy to do, but I understand it's so hard. Because what he could have done is he could have just sat there in the brush, and he could have just made it so that he's waiting, wasting his time. Olaf would just get the Scuttle Crab, get the Raptors, show up at the red, and then he wasted a whole bunch of time. But they started putting something into motion. He did the Crumbz in the meantime, and that is an optimization that we'll talk about later. But first and foremost, I hope you guys are sticking with me here. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. I'm gonna start reading them right now because this is the time for questions before we move on to a little bit more of a solo queue example for you guys, because we're not all pro players here. I'm not, you guys aren't, like, unless there are some in the chat. I mean, if you're a pro player, you can go ahead and press 1. But if you have any questions, go ahead and put them down there. I'll be reading them for the first few moments here. So what role should I main? Well, it depends on what you really want to do, but that's really not the kind of topic that we have here at hand. How many apples can fit? Okay. So does this help us who play jungle? Yeah, this absolutely helps you guys who play jungle. So I think that's such a good question, because what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna actually go into the practice tool, and I'm gonna show you guys a few examples here. So you can do this with any role. I think this actually helps every role, and it's something that you should be incorporating into your gameplay overall. So
only the spider is safe in her web.
Is unpredictable, but why did he know Olaf won't catch him in river? So I think that's a really good example, a really good kind of question, and I'll show you guys why. Reason is now this might not be as relevant now, but back then, raptors, when you smite them, it gives you the thing that shows you on your head that you have a sweeper, right? So if you get spotted by a ward, it goes off. So it's the equivalent of if he actually pops sweeper and walks across mid. So let's speed this up. You'll see he walks straight across. Now, he can't know that Olaf is gonna do his blue. He can't know that Olaf is gonna do scuttle crab. He can't know that Olaf didn't go straight to his red. But what he does is he goes to the red and he says, okay, best case scenario is Olaf is there. He started it, I kill him, kill Olaf, get the red, we're done. Got it. Worst case scenario is he goes there and Olaf's not there. And he goes and does Crumbz, and then he waits for Olaf to show up. If Olaf is at his blue, and he goes to the blue, what's the best case scenario? Well, he gets Olaf at the blue, he catches him there. Maybe Olaf actually went to the red instead. So the best case scenario if he goes to his blue is he gets blue and doesn't fight Olaf. Worst case scenario is Olaf is there and kills him because he's a stronger, like, early game jungler. If he's not caught off guard, then it's kind of bad for him. So Peanut picked the thing that actually is least likely to blow up in his face. And I think it's really important to kind of recognize that Peanut didn't know. That's the thing. Is I remember the casters in this game even asking, how did Peanut know that he was there, right? And the answer is he doesn't. He doesn't know. Peanut has no idea where the Olaf is right now. He doesn't know that he's at his blue. He doesn't know that he's at his scuttle. But he says, if he's at his red, I will catch him here. And then he says, okay, he's not here now, but when he comes to his red, we'll now set up to actually kill him. Because he saw that he had blown his ghost to get into the mid lane and then went off to that side. But he also knows that Olaf has no idea where he is, because he went off to the right side of mid instead of going off to the left side and chasing. So he didn't show him where he was going to be and didn't kind of indicate to him what was going to happen next. Now, one thing before I answer some more questions in the chat is I gotta say that today's lesson is not just a lesson. I'm not just gonna be dictating to you guys, talking to you guys the entire time. We're actually gonna have a game later with 10 of you that I'm gonna spectate, and the whole goal of that game is going to be for the 10 people, inside of the game to play in an unpredictable manner. Not to troll, but to play in a way that is unpredictable to your opponents and to do things to catch them off guard. And we're gonna be looking for that. Chat, you and me will both be looking for that. We'll both be looking to see who has the best caught them play where they weren't expecting that. Now, the rule that I wanna set down for that later is no level 1 invades, don't mess up the early game. I wanna see what happens from a lane state, because it's so easy to throw the game off with level 1s, but it's much harder because people have this idea of there's this unspoken rule that you shouldn't be doing anything besides fighting the enemy laner during the lane phase, and maybe the jungler comes in. But I wanna get that notion out of your head. If you believe that the lane phase is this sacred thing that nobody else should just come into your lane, it's a one-on-one, it's a mano-a-mano, and sometimes the jungler comes there and that's not fair, get that out of your head, because it's a team game. It is 1000% a team game. And you need to contribute to your team as early as possible, because that's not the time that people expect it. So we'll be having a game a little bit later. It's not too much later, but it's gonna be one that's gonna be spectated, and it'll have 10 of you guys in it, trying to be as unpredictable as possible. So I hope you guys look forward to that. But yeah, what about people in low elo don't think nor plan anything? Well, that's why it's good. That's why it's good. Because even if you do the expected thing in low elo, they aren't expecting anything anyway. So you're always unpredictable to the bronze player who has no idea what to expect. That's why some people go like you know, they do their standard level 3 jungle route, and then they gank top lane, and the top laner's like, how is he in my lane? How is he here? Why is he here? And they're caught off guard by it because they don't know what to predict. And that's why as you go higher and higher, you have to consider more and more of what your opponent is thinking. Just like in this game with Clearlove, he was thinking, well, Peanut's gonna go off to the bottom side. There's no way that he's gonna come back up to the top side. It wasn't even a notion in his head that he was gonna get invaded. So, how are you selecting the competitors? So I'll be selecting the competitors in 2 ways. One, it'll be completely random for a few of them, but also if you guys ask really good questions, I'll ask you for your IGN and we'll put you down and we'll get you into that game. This is for North America. This is for the North American server. So if you're European, I apologize. If you're from any other server, I apologize as well. Maybe in the future we'll have some more for you, but strictly right now, it's gonna be a North America 5-on-5. So if you ask really good questions and participate, then yeah, I'll ask you for your IGN. So, Zirene, are you gonna be on the desk for the Easter conference? How should we play? How do we play? Let's see. This game take place? Yeah, all right. What is this event you are doing? Right, gives you following. How should we play when we get behind? So I've seen this a lot. Efkin, you're asking the same question about how to play when you get behind in the jungle. So when you get behind in the jungle, you can't really, I think this is really important for junglers, is you can't really do what's expected. You have to do something to shake it up. Because if the other jungler is ahead of you and you just both start doing the same thing, you're just gonna stay at the same pace, or they'll even get further and further ahead. You have to do something to get you back into the game. And it might royally blow up in your face. You might gank and then it's counter ganked and it ends up just destroying you. But you have to do something different in that game to try and mess up the equilibrium. Whether that is get one of your lanes that's already ahead further ahead to play off of a losing lane and try to get it to equal, or try to take kills yourself. It really depends on how you're tracking the jungle. But I feel like the first thing you need to do is secure your jungle. You need to get wards down. You need to encourage people to get wards down on your side and protect you. Not always the easiest thing, but like I said, it's a team game. So communicating what you need and what your wants are is very important. And it's a very basic thing to do in solo queue. Even if they don't listen, as long as you're communicating it, you're improving because at least you are vocalizing that. So when you're behind, you want to try to do things that aren't just going to keep you in the same state, but really mess with that, get you ahead or prevent you from falling further behind. So you have to do something to either upset the game back in your favor, or if you realize that somebody else is doing really well on your team, try to secure their lead. Because you don't have to be the one that carries. You just have to make sure that you're not the one that's holding your team back when you're already behind. Is there any setting you change? Play better is talent, running, conquer, OP. When you should or shouldn't jungle change sweep. Let's see. What exactly is mid game and how do you use your lead? So moving unpredictably, how should I go about this? Do I take Oracle into the jungler? I actually think that's an interesting question. How can I improve my minimap optimization? How can I improve my? You guys have a lot of questions that may not necessarily have to do with unpredictability, but I like that you guys are really interested in it, in just League of Legends in general. So let's try to keep this towards unpredictability and potentially for roles or any questions you have about that, because it is a harder to grasp concept, and I understand that. But I think that something. Why is Talon Conquer OP? You guys, I like how you guys are doing that. Shaprock, Shaprock, I think you're the first person that I want to put down for this. If you're in North America, you can go ahead and drop your IGN for later, because what he said is, should I be unpredictable like Ole? Now, I think that's actually a really good question, and that's going to lead into what we're doing next here. So, we'll just pick any champion, doesn't matter. How to be unpredictable at top. Okay, Fabian, you as well. I'll ask again to give you guys my your IGNs later. Why do people spam so much? How to be unpredictable? Yeah, Fabian, I'll ask you for your IGN as well as Shaprock. If you guys are on the North America server, then we'll get you into the game that's later. How to be unpredictable as support. So Crystal Flare, I like that you're participating as well. I'll actually put Crystal Flare there, and that's the last one that I'm gonna take of those cookie cutter ones. But I understand that you guys are asking about the specific thing. I know that you're kind of doing that. So anyway, why do we give IGN? Because there's gonna be a game later that's gonna be between 10 viewers, and we're gonna spectate it, and you guys, both you and me, are gonna be looking at what's unpredictable in the game for them. So let's just start talk about solo queue examples here. So I think things that you guys are hungry for is not just the pro player example, but the solo queue example that we're gonna run into here. So for the solo queue example, we're first gonna we're gonna answer the question that Shaprock had. And I think this is probably the most obvious one, or I guess the most, not obvious, effective one. The most effective one. I don't wanna say obvious, the most effective one. So if you're a support and you push up the lane, right? As soon as you push up the lane, what does your enemy expect you to do? They expect you to do potentially one of three things. They expect you to sit in a bush here and wait. They expect you to either go into the river and ward, or they expect you to back. When you back as a support, what do you do next? And in chat, I actually want you to answer this. Like, what do you do next as support to try and be as helpful to your team as possible right now? What is like the most effective thing that you can do right now for your team after you back? What are you going to do? Because you can run straight back to lane, right? But the distance that it takes for you to go from the bot side of the map to your lane is about the same as it takes for you to go to even ward the pixel brush. And if the seconds that it takes you after you ward the pixel brush to come back down isn't much longer than it would take to actually just go straight there. So something that I want to encourage people to do is to mix it up. Don't be as predictable as possible. Go towards mid, put down a control ward for your mid laner. If there's nothing there, you can go gank. If your jungler's on the bottom side of the map, you can ping the enemy blue buff and have you guys invade and potentially get something there. Now, one of my favorites for solo queue, this is actually my personal favorite for solo queue, is the distance that it takes to go and ward the pixel brush on the bottom side actually isn't much different than warding the pixel brush on the top side. So people, as you get higher and higher in elo, expect you as a support to come here, place a ward, maybe look for a gank for a quick second, and then come back down bottom or come back down bottom this way. But if I go up the mid lane, and instead of going to the right, I go to the left, and I go up here, and you ward here, or even here, and you run through mid lane, or you even come from here, ward there, and then walk here, and you gank the mid laner from the top side. The mid laner does not expect a support that's level 4, level 5, to come from the top side of the lane, ever. They will ward here, mostly for dragon control, and if you're warding here, you're helping your mid laner, and you're coming across mid. It's so effective. It's so effective, and you also don't lose much time. Now, I saw somebody mention in there that if you go to the top side, you can go to the top side as support. You can end up here. But the difference is that if you go here, the distance from here all the way back down to bottom lane is gonna leave your bot laner high and dry for a long time. And that's why people go straight down to bottom from backing most of the time, is they don't wanna leave this guy high and dry. But if you go for a ward here and then you come back down bottom, you're only leaving him alone for a few seconds. If you go across mid, you're actually teaming up with somebody to then go back down to the bottom side and almost gank 2 lanes. You gank mid, gank them in their own lane, and you go down bottom to gank your own lane. And then they're gonna be watching ProGuides because they're getting ganked in their lane. But that's the thing that you want them to be doing, is not knowing what's gonna happen. And also, you can even do something where if you come across mid, you walk across mid from the top side, you can go, okay, I walked here, the mid laner started playing aggro again. You can actually just loop back around and gank him from this side again. Because you wanna do the thing that they're not expecting and get as much of an advantage as possible on the map. And I'm saying do this early, because that's when it's not expected. Later, people expect the support to roam around. But this is what tilts people. This is what makes people go, why is the support here? What is the bottom lane doing? Why aren't you guys pushing? Because I'm sure you guys have had that complaint about somebody in your game where you're like, I just got ganked by X person. What is going on the opposite side? And you want to be the person making the other team say that to each other. And this is a very easy way to do that as support, is to gank the lanes that aren't necessarily your own. But to finish the point I was talking about, the distance from top to bottom, way too long to leave them high and dry. I think going for a ward here, teaming up with your mid laner, and even if you get, and the best part too, is if this gank works, ping your mid laner to now come get dragon with you, or even gank bottom as 3 people, potentially with the jungler, and then you 4-man dive. This is how you set things up and cause a cascading effect by teaming up with people on your team in an unpredictable way and in a way that the other team kind of tilts them. Because people think, like I said before, it's a sacred lane phase. It's just you're supposed to just let them 2-on-2, let them 1-on-1. Absolutely not. You want to ruin that as much as possible for other players. You want to make their day as bad as possible and make that mid laner not want to play against you ever again. You want to roam, you want to be active, you want to place wards down as much as possible, and that sounds, like a duh move, but as a support, you want to be disruptive. You aren't just about backing somebody up, you're about being as disruptive as possible. And even if you aren't a ganking support, even if you're not an Alistar or something that's going to come into the lane and really wreak havoc, if you're a Janna, I've seen Jannas run across mid lane, W somebody, Q them to knock them up, chunk them, and then they just run back down bottom. As long as you're contributing to that, you're going to be getting your team ahead. You're going to be causing advantages that makes the other team feel like they have to do something about you. And you want to be that player that the other team has to deal with. And that's really what you should strive for. So we just answered the question that Shaprock and Crystal Flare had with supports. Now let's move on to the question that Fabian had. So you talked about top lane. Top lane, it's very similar to supports in that sense, but you want to do a few things. You can push the lane up, and then you can team up with your jungler and go towards the Scuttle Crab. You can go towards mid lane, and instead of if the mid laner's in a place where he's not quite gankable, let's say the mid laner is right here, and he's not quite gankable, and your lanes are just fighting each other. When you roam down from the top side, you can also take this route as well. You don't have to go straight through here. You can disappear into the tri-brush and go over into the jungle if you saw the enemy jungler on the bottom side and ward. You can take their plants. You can come down here and gank. Because ganking somebody is always going to be effective. I think we had Doublelift in the studio a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how Ole kind of gets him away from farm sometimes, and Doublelift will be farming a side lane. He'll be getting 20 gold, 20 gold, 20 gold, just killing minions. And then Ole will go, hey, you want 300 gold? And what he said was so simple but so beautiful, because what he's doing is he's just saying, you can't get fed by just sitting in your lane. You can't get fed unless you're affecting more people. You can't get fed if you're farming a side lane. You can get a lot of farm, but you can't become 10-0 without encountering at least 10 people to kill. So you wanna move around the map, you wanna cause disruption, and even if you're spotted, let's say I shove this lane, right? I shove this lane, and then I walk down here into the river, right? And the guy has a ward here. He'll see me pass. If I know he has the ward there, he'll see me pass, and then I just back here. And now the enemy mid laner is going to play back here. He's gonna play back there. He's gonna play right back there. He's gonna play further back. And now I've affected my team, and I've affected the enemy, because now I'm out of vision, and the enemy top laner thinks I'm ganking, but I'm actually backing. So if you do this and you gank them, and then they start putting vision down, you can still swap it up from there, right? Because when you're unpredictable for so long, that becomes the predictable play. It's why Xin Zhao's level 2 ganking, we're like, oh man, I got caught by this every time. And now everybody's like, watch out for the Blitzcrank invade level 1. Watch out for the Xin Zhao gank level 2. Because it used to be unpredictable. But as people adapt as human beings, we see things and go, okay, this is what he's gonna do. Even if it's not the thing that other people will do, this is what he's gonna do for the rest of the game. And that's how you kind of mix things up, is you take the information that they have and think, if I were them, what would I think? If I were this guy as the mid laner, I'd be like, oh God, he's ganking again. I gotta play safe. And you play back, right? And if the mid laner's not gankable and you're just backing in the bush, then you saved your time. And then you run back to top lane. And what if the top laner goes, oh, I have to clear the wave and then follow? And now you've wasted his time. You cause these cascading effects, but just think about what the enemy sees and that's really important, because what they see is what you're able to manipulate and use to your advantage. Now, this is gonna be kind of like layers upon layers, but I think it's really important. Talk about unpredictable wards, please. Absolutely. I think that's a really good question. That's Nolan. I'll ask for your IGN later. Nolan Weddle. if you want to participate in the game that's coming up. And it's actually only going to be in a few minutes here. But unpredictable wards. So unpredictable wards are really, really, really fun things to place down. Things that people don't always expect. I like the wards that are placed kind of here, over the wall. I like the wards that are placed here to kind of see if people are doing Baron or not, right? I can like move myself over here because you can see like this area, right? And then if I place down like an enemy who's hitting it, you can place wards that aren't necessarily swept, right? I think so many people make this mistake and they just do this. All right, I warded. I did it. I warded. I put my ward down. It's not effective. Why would you do this? This ward is even more effective. And this ward is more effective. And this ward is more effective. And I'm sure you guys get the point that placing it further and further up is always going to be good. Now, the thing with unpredictable wards is not necessarily the placement, because we can all go, oh, we'll place things anywhere. Unpredictable wards would be like, you know, I'm doing the enemy Gromp and I ward right here, right? They don't usually see this. They don't usually understand. Or I can, you know, if I go over the wall and I place a control ward in this bush. People don't expect that. But you might expect it later in the game, right? But they don't expect it at the beginning of the game. They don't expect it very early. I've had so many times where I've been doing Dragon and I'm like, wait, when did they get to ward this? I'm like level 3 and I'm sitting there going, did they really spend a ward? Not here in this bush or over here or here, because what I'll do is I'll go over with a blast cone or something, right? And I'll be like, how did they see me? How did they know? And I'll watch the replay and somebody came down and they placed a ward right there or right there to see everything. And I think I'm safe because the scuttle crab is dead and it's their scuttle crab even, right? But somebody placed a ward so early on that I wasn't expecting, and I go, it wasn't gonna be effective for them if they got ganked through Tri-Brush. It wasn't gonna help them if I came this way or this way. But they caught me. They predicted that I was gonna do that, and it lined up well. And reading people is something that people do in macro game. You do it in skill shots. You read people all the time. You try to predict skill shots. You try to predict if they're gonna go left, right, or even just straight, and you kind of just put it on the route they're on. That's what people do all the time. It's just tiny micro reads. But when you macro read people, that's the really impressive thing. And that's the thing that gets you such a large advantage, because people, once they've been read in a macro sense, they can't really outplay that. Whereas if you try to read somebody in a micro sense, they can try to counter afterwards. And I think when you see somebody do this and they start warding in a way that makes you unsure whether or not people see you, it really puts them on guard. And it can throw them off. I've had times where my bot lane, literally level 2 or 3, I'm on like red side here. Let's say I'm red team. I've been pushed in, and then the guy goes here for a few seconds, and he'll ward over this wall, or he'll ward here, right? And he'll spot me the next time I do it, or he'll ward it 6 minutes when my blue buff is going to come back up in 45 seconds, and they'll see me. And because they left the lane, and I didn't really have any control of that, I wasn't able to see or predict what they were going to do. And it's much harder for me to do that, because then they'll maybe show up mid lane immediately afterwards, and I'll think, okay, he was actually just going to gank mid lane. He wasn't going to ward. And so being able to play in a way that is hard to read is so valuable. It's so valuable, because the higher elo you get, everybody understands the game. Everybody understands what this champion does or wants to do. And junglers are the ones who are going to be doing this the most in lower elos, in terms of like trying to get ganks that people don't expect. Because if the gank is expected, it's not a good gank, and people will avoid it, right? So junglers at a base level are trying to be unpredictable all the time, but everybody in the game should be. Everybody in the game should be kind of being almost like a semi-jungler, like the mid laner. We didn't really talk about how mid lane kind of mixes it up with being unpredictable, but going to side lanes, shoving the wave and backing, placing wards down in the middle of the lane like that aren't spotted. There's a lot of great things that mid laners can do, even if they're not doing, even if they're not contributing to the ganks in side lanes or anything like that. And another thing that mid laners can really do to be unpredictable is, if my jungler is waiting in this bush over here, if my jungler's waiting in the bush over here, and the mid laner is right here, I can go ahead and instead of playing to this side where my jungler is, just play to the opposite side. Play to this side. Just place a ward down and play towards your vision, because your jungler's giving you vision over here, right? And then try to corral them, because they'll usually mirror you. He'll probably start walking this way, and then you'll move him closer to your jungler. Because people like to kind of mirror each other and be on the exact opposite side, because he's usually not going to stand right here, right? You guys aren't usually going to stand like that. He'll usually stand over here. And then you can kind of corral him and hurt him. And that's a way that you're being unpredictable, because he's expecting you to play to the side that your jungler is on. And you should do that is usually if you're being defensive, you play to the side your jungler's on. But when you go over here, you're trying to make it so that he goes into your jungler instead. So you're playing in a more aggressive way while it appears to be defensive. And so mid laners can do that and kind of mix things up and not give away that their jungler is there, but give their jungler some assistance without really tilting their hand. And that's what it's all about. It's a game of information, right? Wait for ganks, yeah. How do you have impact as an ADC in the early game? So I think that's a really good question, because having impact as an ADC, Jayush Aurora, I'll put you down as well. Having impact as an ADC is really difficult. It's really hard. I think actually out of all the roles, top lane, mid lane, support, and jungle, they have way more agency in the early game. And I think this is where kind of ADs feel left out, is that they don't always feel like they have a way to affect the game. And if you are an AD, the ways that you'll be able to kind of be unpredictable is to do almost what the support did and roam towards the mid lane. If you can roam towards the mid lane, contribute to the vision, because I will tell you straight up, people do not expect ADs to buy pink wards until like diamond, like legitimately. How many of you guys are AD carry players who don't buy pink wards? Like, you can be honest with me, because I think so many times you just use your trinket ward for a while and then you'll end up using your blue ward when you get it. But so many ADs will maybe buy one pink ward a game. They don't really do that at all. They don't contribute to the vision game that much. But of course you guys do, because you guys are ProGuides viewers. Of course you guys do. But I think the big thing there is contributing to the vision game in a meaningful way throughout the entire game. Not just the beginning, but the entire game, I think, is so important as an AD carry player. Roaming mid, making sure that you're catching people kind of off guard. Jhin is a really good person to do this with, helping the mid lane just kind of get a good back timer, or even backing for an item when they don't expect you to. Now, another thing that is big that I want to emphasize is if you're an AD and you have an advantage and you push the lane up, something that you can do is you can sit in this bush or sit here and wait for them to kind of push a little further, and then you'll move to here. And then you can gank. You can almost gank your own lane, in a sense, by using the alcoves. Once you shove up, you can go for backs that they don't expect. You can gank. And another big thing is when there's minions in the lane and they're fighting each other, what a lot of people will do if they expect you to be in the bush is they'll hover around here and they'll be like, okay, he's in the bush. Don't worry about it. 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 He's in the bush. Just wait and wait. But then at what point do you go, okay, he's not in the bush, or maybe he's not in the bush? Because you want to cast as much doubt as possible in the enemy's minds. So what will happen is there's a key mentally for people. There's a cue that when enough minions die without somebody in the bush going, okay, I need to last hit that minion, they're like, oh, they're not there. Because who sits here and just lets these minions die and lets you sit there going like, okay, he's in the bush? Because what eventually happens is these minions die and they go, oh, well, if he was in that bush, he would have last hit like those last 4 minions. Because like letting one minion go, because a lot of people will sit in this bush and they'll go, okay, if he's gonna walk up, he's gonna walk up. If he doesn't walk up, I'm just gonna CS again and shove the wave. And then they pop out of the bush. But how long do you have to wait until that person goes, okay, he's probably not there? He's probably not there. If they don't have any wards to place down, it's like, when is that key point where they do that? And they go, okay, I should shove. Because you've probably had it, if you've played League of Legends for long enough, you've had this happen to you, where somebody sits in that bush and it's a little bit longer than you would think. And you just go, you have that like mental trigger where you're like, it feels like it's been long enough, that if they were there, they'd pop out. They would have already popped out. And then when you walk up, you go, oh my God, they're there. Everybody's had that moment. And you want to be able to do that to other people. And the way that you do that is you think about what would I think in this situation? How many minions would it take for me to go, okay, he's not in that bush. He let a whole wave die. He's not in that bush. But what's a whole wave that you still get the experience for compared to the 300 gold and setting that person behind? So let's wrap this portion up here where we're talking about how to be unpredictable. And I hope you guys have some takeaways for that for your role. I didn't talk about all of them completely. I did kind of hint at most of them and talked about some of them further than others. But I think it's now time to finally get into that solo queue game we talked about. That custom game where you guys are gonna be playing against each other 5-on-5. So we'll talk about unpredictable champs maybe another time, but I think that can give you an advantage in and of itself at different times. And this will be, we will make this blind pick just for the sake of it being blind pick. All right, so the people that I call out here, Anakin. Okay, perfect. You gave it to me. I hope that's correct. Send an invite. So we have, that was Nolan, correct? Let's see. So we have Shaprock, Fabian, Jayush, Aurora, Crystal Flare, and Nolan Weddle. If I called your name, go ahead and put your IGN in the chat really quickly and to see if I can actually catch it in time. So Shaprock, if you are on the North American server, Crystal Flare, River Witch. Get you in here. Shaprock, okay, perfect. I like it when people have their IGN as their name. That's perfect. I am a challenger player. IGN Shaprock. Okay, so we have, I got you in there, Shap. I got you. I got Shaprock. I have Crystal Flare, and I think I have Nolan in here as well. So the two other people that I'm missing are Jayush Aurora and Fabian. Let's see. Fabian, oh, you're EU West? Oh, okay. Well, I really thank you for participating. Like, in the future, I may do one on EU West because I won't be playing, so I don't need to, have my MS be anything. Even if I have like 300 MS, it's not a big deal. So it doesn't really matter. So I'd be just spectating. So we'll potentially do one for Europe in the future, but we'll keep that in mind. Thank you so much for participating, though. I really appreciate that. Let's see, who is the other person? So Fabian, unfortunately. Jayush Aurora, if you're still here. You are the last person, I believe. You are Unskillful J, okay. Unskillful J. Okay. Now let's get some random people, some truly random people in here. If you have been enjoying today and you want to play and you want to show off something, okay, I'll put scripting Zareth in there. I want to see if you, oh wait, are you did I write that? Scripting Zareth. Okay, well, I guess it's not a name. All right, let's see. I'm gonna invite the people that I see. Is that correct? No. I typed that in. Asmodeus, okay. 260. Can't join EU. Green Blob. Kevlar Armor. Dude. Illy Lisa. Is that Okay. Guess I didn't type that in right. Crispy chicken. We're gonna get crispy chicken in here just because I want to say your name. And Shamriel. And an awesome guy. Let's see. There's two spots left. Two spots left here. Brass Unicorn. I'm sending these invites out. Let's get you guys in. Brass Unicorn, all right. Shy Holo, okay. And Atakin, go ahead and jump into the other one. Okay, let's see. Let me balance these teams really quickly before we do anything. Brass Unicorn, can you go to Spectator really quickly? And then we'll have Green Blob swap sides with Brass Unicorn, if that's all right. So Green Blob and Brass Unicorn can swap to Spectator and then swap sides that you're on. Some of these ranks might be TFT. Potentially actually. Let's see. I haven't checked. But regardless. Brass Unicorn, are you good? All right, well, not really responding. Regardless, Green Blob, go ahead and go back on the side that you were on. Thank you. All right, so Crispy Chicken, you can go ahead and start the game. You are party leader right now, so go ahead and start. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm glad you didn't troll me. I'm like, I don't have control of this. Hopefully, thank you so much. All right, so something that I want to mention here for everybody that's in this game. First off, thank you so much for asking questions, and also thank you so much for being here and putting your IGN in. What this game is going to be about not winning, but making sure that you are showcasing kind of what we were talking about today. Try to be unpredictable, and also try to do it in a way that is efficient. Don't lose too much for doing it. I don't want to see any level 1 invades. That's the only rule of this, is no level 1 invades, because that can really throw games off. It's kind of like a scrim where people want to get something out of it. Don't level 1 invade. I know it can get you an advantage. I know it's a really good way to be unpredictable, but for the sake of this lesson and this closed environment, we want to have no level 1 invades, and then I want to see how you guys try to affect laning phases and try to get advantages for your team. So, that being said, chat, we're going to be looking at these players the entire time, and we're going to be trying to spot those. We can go back, we can go and see if I missed something and you guys saw something that was awesome. We're going to try to find who's playing in the most unpredictable way, but is getting something for it, is actually being able to catch people off guard. Now, it's easy for junglers, but if supports get in there too and they start playing in a way that's catching people off guard, we want to call them out as well. And at the end of this, we're going to pick one person who's going to end up winning $25 in RP. So everybody in this game has a chance for it, and they are going to try to play their hearts out, try to show exactly what we're talking about today with unpredictability, and we're going to be able to select one person who will get $25 in RP. Now, like I said, it's not about winning. It's not about just making the play completely work. It's about doing the thing that makes us go, that was cool. That was cool that he did that. That was cool that he tried to incorporate that into his play. Because as you try to learn this, you're probably gonna fail. You're probably gonna fail royally. But that's okay to mess up. That's okay to like go into normal games and try something and have it blow up in your face. It's okay to play with friends and try something and have it blow up in your face. You just need to learn when you can and can't do those things. and incorporate that into your play slowly, and you're gonna see massive gains very quickly. Even if you're low elo, people don't expect you to be in different lanes, but the optimization and the effectiveness just gets better and better the higher you get. So, absolutely not, Dominic Sampson. Absolutely not. Spectate is behind? Yes, it is behind. But that's because we don't want them to, ghost each other. Because how are you supposed to be unpredictable when they can see exactly what you're doing on a minimap? So for the sake of it, there will be that 3-minute delay, but that's so that people can't cheat. That's so people can't cheat on the essay, I guess, or the test. So sad I didn't get in. Well, that's the thing, Chenille, is that in the future, we will have opportunities for you with live classes to be a part of it, to be a part of the lesson, to get in there. If you're asking questions, you're being active, eventually you will be somebody who gets picked. It's just an inevitability at that point. If you are active, if you are always there, if I recognize you and I see that you're somebody who's participating, who's really hungry to learn, and you're being active, then absolutely you'll get a chance to play, you'll get a chance to be in these games. So, first and foremost, thank you so much. Those videos get uploaded after full because I want to see this video after sleep. That is a very good question. Christoph, will this be uploaded afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely.
It will be uploaded afterwards, just so you guys know. So if you are staying up late, if you are watching this from Europe and you want to go to sleep and you have school or anything like that tomorrow, well, not everybody has school right now, but yeah, absolutely, you can go to sleep. That's fine. You come back. This will be up there for you to watch. Can you explain to me what mid-game is and how to use your lead as support? Yeah, so using your lead as support is typically a vision game. You want a ward to get pressure and pressure to get wards. It sounds like it's like a cyclical thing, but it's a chicken and the egg issue. Is in the mid-game, you want to pressure to then get wards, which will then allow you to pressure more. But which one came first is the pressure. You can't get wards down without pressure. It's way too risky and it ends up being too random of an element. So in the mid game as a support, you want to find a place to pressure, whether it's off a fed lane or whether it's off of your own pressure and you're doing well. Pressure, then get the wards down with somebody else on your team, and then use that in the mid game, which is the place that happens after the laning phase, and it kind of is more objective focused. Use that to ward up the side, whichever side is going to be advantageous to you. So if your top laner's fed, start warding the lane that he's in, near that place, and then allow him to push further. Or if the dragon is coming up, you can ward on the bottom side, flip somebody onto that side of the map, and then make sure that you guys are controlling that. And you want to do that minutes ahead of time so that you can refill your wards and then use that again. Because like I said, pressure gets you your wards, so those wards are down, right? Then you use those wards to pressure again, which will then allow you to place better wards in the future, or to not have your ward line fall too far back on you. So as a support, you really want to be pushing your advantages by using your team and having them use you. So it's kind of a back and forth, right? But yeah, 100%, you want to use pressure to get wards down and then use the wards to get more pressure. It sounds crazy, but believe me, it absolutely works. So picking supports that you feel comfortable with, that you feel you can shove lane with or affect the game with, or even just roam with, are always going to be your best choices. Now, also, I hope everybody in this game picks something that they're comfortable with, because I think the biggest thing about this is if you're playing a champion you're not comfortable with unpredictability, you're not going to be unpredictable. What you're going to do is you're going to try to learn the champion. You're going to be sitting there going, okay, I need to last hit. I need to focus on my last hitting animation. I need to make sure I don't miss CS. I need to make sure that I'm comfortable with this champion, that I'm landing my abilities, any of those things. But it's so hard to affect the game when you do that. And I actually encourage people to do the opposite. So if you're autofilled and you're playing something like a top lane and you're not really proficient with it, pick something that can wave clear, like maybe Maokai with his Q, or something that is a little bit more effective in that regard. And you don't necessarily have to beat your opponent, you just have to beat people on the map and not lose to your opponent. And if you have that in mind, you can go down 30 CS, you can go down 20 CS. But as long as you're in a position where you feel like you aren't focusing on your champion and you're focusing on the game, that's where you're gonna find the big wins. So when you're trying to learn this and unpredictability, I highly encourage you to play something you're comfortable with. Don't go out of your wheelhouse just yet. Don't play Blitzcrank just because Blitzcrank is somebody that, can have those crazy hooks. Play something you're comfortable with and learn the elements of that will allow you to be more unpredictable. When can I leave my ADC so I can make a Rift play? When you guys back and you tell him that you're going to do that. There are some times that may be more effective than others, but you should obviously be making sure that he is comfortable with it, that he knows what's going to happen. Tell him to play safe. Even if he doesn't, at least you told him that's all you could do. But if you're going to go make a play on Rift Herald, then you have to make it worth it, right? I mean, Kha'Zix, I'm low elo, of course, early game, mid game, late game, I feel like I lose my lead. Any tips? Oh yeah. So the way that you kind of how to stop a jungler leeching your lane, don't get mad at him. Just encourage him to come by and make the ganks quickly, and maybe give back to him too. Because a lot of the times, as a jungler myself, when I'm ganking, I'm leeching inadvertently. It's not that I intend to; it's that it happens. I'm by the EXP. Maybe I make sure that you don't get 6 as fast, and maybe you die because of it. Maybe you're angry at me, right? But I was trying to help. Just understand that they were trying to help, and then find a way to get them to help you again, or to help them and roam around. Because a lot of people focus on themselves in League of Legends, and I think that if you focus on the team, you're always going to do a little bit better. Like, learning how to be a good team player, not just like morale-wise, but also keeping your cool, is gonna show like big gains, because everyone's just trying to win. Everyone's trying to win. Maybe they don't want to win the same way you do, but just understanding that they want to try and win, I think is a big deal. So let's see what happened here. Looks like Nicolai went for a level 2 gank. We'll actually check here. So I think he went for blue. Checked, saw he wasn't there. And then, yeah, so Nicolai checked for him on his Raptors because he saw him with this ward, and then went back. But now he's going to get spotted there, doesn't get to kill it, and now he's really far behind. So what's Elise going to do? Elise is going to take advantage of this. There's the flash. There's a good cocoon. Crispy chicken. Crispy chicken. Now, the thing about this is Asmodeus just died to a really obvious gank. Because what happened was, the Elise did literally the route that everybody said. Elise did red to blue to Gromp to gank top. And there was a ward here, so they know that Elise started there. You gotta look at your map. Those crispy chicken's gonna get you. You gotta pay attention to it. Now let's figure out what happened in the mid lane. Because they were full HP just a second ago. Okay? Ooh. Okay, yeah. I think he got destroyed by that. He's really close to level, isn't he? He's pretty close, yeah. He goes in. I don't know how that didn't work. See that one more time. I want to see that one more time. Just so I don't like flaming people, but Illy Lisa, let's see. There's the Q. Yeah, he had already cast the Q, and then he E'd. In terms of which one he cast first. Yeah, I don't know. But it gets him killed. Regardless, doesn't have much to do. Wait a second. I like this. Wait, what's going on here? I like this. Okay, guys. So watch what they do. They shove up level 2. They know that he was over here because they saw him attack this ward. So they have an idea that he's on this side. They know that he didn't go for it. And they go, oh, place the ward down. Perfectly done. And then they get the flash, and they're rewarded, and they might even get the Gromp on top of it. They get it. Now the Elise is somebody who's ahead of the Nicolai. And let's see. He's going to be trying to go for this. Katarina should be roaming over. She should flash away. Katarina should come over. Katarina's in the bush. Katarina's going to clean this up. There it is. There's one. Ooh. Oh. Yep. And because they have wards, he's able to make this play, and now he's dead. Like, because they invaded and they used the information that they had, it's actually such a good play, but the Katarina also moved. So the Katarina did the right thing too. Unskillful J actually showing off there a little bit. I think that's a really good move, but you saw what happened there with pressure, right? Like see, Shaprock's even like, that was so good that they invaded and they used that pressure, because Lucian and Thresh is usually a lane where you go, hey, they're gonna hook the Janna, they're gonna potentially kill. And I think that's such a good thing that that River Witch and Atikian, I don't know, Atikian decided to invade there and get wards down, because they saw that the Nidalee wasn't even on that side doing the wolves, so they wanted to double check and check it out from there. And oh, Lisa. Really, yeah, it's so Lisa's being really aggressive here, but doesn't have the wards to do that. Lisa had a ward over here, but otherwise Lisa's completely blind. Pretty much all around the map. So remember when I said you need to pressure to get wards and then use the wards to get more pressure? At this point, he doesn't really have the wards down, and he has a ward in his that just came up. So instead of actually pushing here, what Lisa should have done is Lisa should have played safe, backed up here, right there. Backed up, waited for the ward. I know it's really tempting, and your jungler is on the side here, and you think he can help you, but he's not in a position to actually reinforce you. He's behind, none of that's gonna help, and it starts snowballing out of control. So now, Unskillful J is gonna be probably the hardest person to deal with in the entire world, because now this is a really fed Katarina. He's probably gonna back, get his Hex, exactly, and start moving towards that. So we're just gonna keep scouting here and seeing what people choose to do in this game. Okay, good ward. Now he's low HP, ganking. Unskillful J will probably turn this around, right? Yeah. So I like the idea behind that. The execution is a little bit flubbed, but I like the idea. Let's check this out again on the bottom side. So now they're just obscenely ahead, and this is gonna start snowballing just out of control. And I think one of the key things here was the play that River Witch and Atikian were making on the bottom side of the map. We'll check that. Yeah, they just gank him top lane. He's getting ganked in his own lane, guys. And across the board, this is just going to be a really big stomp now because of the advantage that they were able to get themselves off of the early invade, and because they put the Nidalee behind. And if you think about it, the way that this works is the Nidalee wasn't just playing against the Elise. In fact, the Nidalee never encountered the Elise. The Nidalee tried to invade the Elise and find him at his raptors, right? But instead, what ended up happening is there was a ward that went down that spotted the wolves, that made sure that they knew where Nidalee was. They saw that Nidalee was on that side, and then the support and the AD are the ones who invaded. And I think that's so important because the support and AD, Atikin and Riverwitch, realize they aren't just playing against Brass, Unicorn, and Shaprock. They're actually playing against the entire team, and the more people they can affect that are in the mental state of, I'm only playing against this other person, then that's where you catch people off guard. Because if Shy Holo is saying, I need to outplay Crispy Chicken because he's the enemy jungler and I'm this team's jungler, you're absolutely going to get caught with your pants down. And that's what happened, is Atikian and Riverwitch were both on that same page of, hey, this guy is going to get caught by us. And then you saw Unskillful J came in after the mid lane fight and went off to the side and realized that it's a team game. And that's how people snowball, is just get it out of your head that this is a game where you're playing against the other laner. The other laner just happens to be the person that you're laning against at that moment. But what if a lane swap happens? Who are you laning against now? And that's not unfair. There's no real rules in League of Legends. If people are going to mix it up like this, that's going to make you lose elo. That's going to make you drop. You're not going to be able to hold up against that because you're playing against a team and you're just playing there as a regular player. You're playing as a person trying to win lane. If you're just trying to win lane and not win the game, or you sit there and go, I won my lane, it's not my fault, there's always something more that you could have been doing. There's something that you could have been doing here in Atikian's case, in Riverwitch's case, and even in Brass, Unicorn, and Shaprock's case, right? Because what Brass Unicorn and Shaprock could have done is they could have thought, okay, he's off on the side. I'm going to feint over towards the jungle and almost go for a read. Because if they can say they went out of vision and then the ward came down, because like, let's actually look at that play again. I actually really want to dissect that for an extra second here. And see what the reaction was. Because they leave lane. Shaprock has a ward. Brass Unicorn has a ward. Shaprock walks up, goes for a last hit. And now they're no longer in the lane. They ping question mark. But like, I think a big lesson here is just because you just because you ping question mark doesn't mean your job is done. You can't go, pinged Mia. It's your fault. Sorry, ping Mia. You should do more. Question mark. And then investigate. And you can see he starts running over pretty much. So he smites. Shaprock goes, oh, okay, I need to start running over. Starts running over. And then they still go for this play because they catch him off guard. But they're not really accomplishing much with this down. They think that they can land this. Shaprock gets a good hook. They're even in levels there, and they have the numbers advantage. So ideally, it seems like a good play, but because of the state of the map, it's not really. But also the fact that they had wards available and they didn't place them down is one of the big things of you can, like, the way I want to phrase this is, when people are trying to be unpredictable and you throw wards down, you catch them. You see exactly what they're trying to do. You go, oh, they're going for an invade. The unpredictable thing is now being read and telegraphed. So wards are a good way to prevent this from happening, and exactly what you're supposed to do is exactly you're supposed to ward and make sure that people aren't able to catch you off guard. Because that's what unpredictability is all about. Is catching people with their guard down. And that's what they were able to do because they weren't expecting it. So now let's move back to where we were. No vision, no win. I actually like that a lot. Array. I like that a lot. Because if you don't have vision, vision doesn't necessarily win you games, but it stops your opponent from going undetected and being able to do exactly what they want to do and impose their will on the game. You want to be the ones to impose your will and to prevent them from doing the same. Now that they're behind, how are they supposed to come back without making it worse? Well, at this point in the game, this Katarina is really far ahead, and she's going to start snowballing other people ahead. And the way to stop that is to hit her with something like the Thresh, who now is very far behind, but they're starved. And you can see they're trying to get something here. The Nidalee's going for an invade. Everybody's kind of taking care of themselves now. Nidalee, because this is where everybody is so far behind. Nidalee needs to take care of herself and get her experience. Lucian and Thresh, they need to take care of themselves and get themselves to a good point. It's that whole thing in airplanes, right? You want to secure your mask first before you secure somebody else's. So before you can help your team, if you're in a crisis situation, you need to help yourself, right? So here they need to help themselves because everybody's in the same crisis, right? Just like if a plane's going down, you need to secure your mask and then your child's mask because you're all in the same situation and you can't help them if you're passed out or if you can't actually function. So if you can't help them, if you can't function, if everybody's in the same place where they are in danger of not being able to function in the game. So you should be able to focus on falling back, giving up as little as possible while trying to stay in the game or get what you can and not be too greedy for things at that point because that's where you start falling further and further behind. Now, are you only going to get breadcrumbs at that point? Yes, but at least you aren't starving. Right? At least you aren't actually just getting completely obliterated in the game and making it worse. So at this point, you need to be very on top of your Mias. You can't be contesting dragons. You can't be making aggressive plays. You have to be on the defensive because you're just so much weaker. And you have to be looking for opportunities where the enemy messes up. And I know that sounds bad. And that sounds like something where you should go, well, if I'm waiting for them to mess up, like what's the point? I don't have the ball anymore. The ball's in their court. Well, unfortunately, you can have forced errors where you put them in a bad situation, but more often than not, you have to look for the unforced errors. You have to look for the ones where people drop the ball when they have it in their court. People mess up dribbling all the time. So you have to wait for them. You have to wait for the cat to be too aggressive. You have to wait for him to do something else. So as we look through this game, you'll see it, as you can see from the bar, it looks like it's only going to start getting worse. They start doing the Rift Herald. While they're behind, they get a kill. And now the Katarina is just at a point where she's so fed. The Thresh is level 3. And this just becomes an absolute fiesta, for lack of a better word here. And like, I like that he's trying something, because Shaprock, it's 9 minutes in. Shaprock went for a Rift Herald play, right? And his team wasn't able to get it, but they were able to get a kill. They were able to get their first kill in the entire game. And he went for something that I think, if he wasn't behind and his lane was okay, then it would actually be a good play. If the mid lane wasn't in such a catastrophic spot, it would actually be a good play. And I think Shaprock, despite being 0-4-1, is actually doing a decent job of moving about the map. He answered the Nicolai, maybe too aggressive there, but he did a really good job of actually being active on the map. And it's pre-10 minutes when he's doing that. So I do want to actually give him big props for that, because I think he's doing a good job there. But we're looking at a game that's like highly accelerated, right? The Janna is mid lane already. And I love this. I love that people are actually all around the map, because River Witch, I think, is doing a really good job of roaming. I think that they've swapped their lanes now. And now it's just, so this is such a good example. I actually think this is a great example. Even though it's 25-1 in the scoreline, you might be thinking I'm crazy, but I think this is such a good example of breaking the lane phase, because it's only 12 minutes in. And they broke the lane phase even before that. Before a turret was even down, they started breaking the lane phase. You started seeing people in other lanes. Now, it is really easy to move around when you have a fed member like a Katarina who can just control the center part of the map. But learning how to actually move about the map and get a feel for almost being like a second jungler no matter what you do. So if I'm the support, play like a second jungler sometimes. If I'm the mid laner, play like a second jungler sometimes. Not taking camps, but roaming the map early. When you have that opportunity, try to give up as little as possible. But I think it's such a good example here in this game where breaking the game open to your team's advantage and moving about the map is actually such a good kind of acceleration of the game that favors your team. Did Illy Lisa leave? Oh no. Okay. They already F'd up? Well, I think that's actually like FF at 15. It's a really like hard stomp game, and I understand that. But I actually think that this was a really good example regardless. Like, there's so much you can take away from games that are stomps and look at those first few minutes and say, okay, what did somebody do that actually caught us off guard? Because even though the mid lane was a bit of a disaster in terms of the 1v1, and I'm not exactly sure what happened with the interaction of the Q and E for Syndra, but outside of that, I love the idea of Anakin and River Witch. I actually think they played that so well in the early part of the game. And I think River Witch is the person that I think is going to be able to get the is the person that I think should get the $25 RP, because River Witch, I think, you know, living up to their name, was living in the river for the early part of the game. They roamed around, they teamed up with their strong teammate, and they went into the jungle as soon as possible after they got pressure, and they almost immediately applied basically what we were talking about. And I don't know if it's because River Witch is somebody who already does this, or if they were doing that for kind of like what they felt was the way to implement the lesson. But I actually think that that was really, really strong there. Look at your pings. Nolan. Okay, Nolan. So it's going to be a team effort there, and I completely understand that. Like, if you're actually encouraging him to do that, actually, you know what? Christoph, yo, is there a way to give two people like 15? I'll throw in some money.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll split it between the bottom lane here. You're each going to get $15 in RP. We'll get Anakin and River Witch some RP here. Those are the two people that I think should get it, because you guys played really well as a bottom lane in terms of setting something up and catching them off guard. So, I'm what? Yeah, I mean, I have their names written down. It's Anakin and River Witch, correct? So, yeah. Yes, I do, Mikey. So, thank you guys so much for that. I thought that was actually really, really well done in the early parts of the game. So, the final thing I want to talk about here, before we wrap up today's lesson on unpredictability, is one thing that I always struggled with unpredictability is that I always lost so much to try to do it. And what I mean by this is, if I'm a Thresh and I roam from my lane and now I'm losing CS, I'm losing experience, I'm running around the game level 3 Thresh, I've lost a lot to try and make that happen. It's like when a support ganks top lane and it doesn't work. You lose a lot running all the way back down to the bottom lane. And the way to master truly being unpredictable is to be unpredictable, but also think ahead for yourself. Not just think ahead for what the enemy wants to do. Think ahead of, if I put myself in that position, what am I gonna do next? If it does work and if it doesn't work. If it does work, you get the gank. Fantastic. If it doesn't work, what are you gonna do? And if that leaves you in such a bad spot, then that probably isn't a good move. Let's think about the pro player example that we had from earlier. Remember Peanut? What Peanut ended up doing is Peanut went to the red and then he didn't sit there forever. He could have sat there and just wasted time. He went to the Crumbz. He optimized his time. He made sure that he was still getting income and experience in the meantime if Olaf wasn't going to show up there in his unpredictable move, right? So what would have happened there if Atakin and Riverwitch warded and the Nidalee wasn't there? Well, they just back off and they go back to their lane. They don't lose a lot for doing that, right? So making optimizations, being unpredictable, and doing it in a way where what you do, if it doesn't work, doesn't cost you an arm and a leg to do, that's how you truly master this. It's something that I struggled with for a very long time, but you don't want to start just running to Rift Herald because you feel like I'm going to be unpredictable. Like, you're going to lose a lot for that. You're actually trolling at that point. You want to think about what you're going to lose and if it's worth it for the potential upside. You want as low risk as possible for your unpredictability, but you also want the highest reward for it. So I don't want to lose 2 minion waves bot lane to try and maybe go towards a Rift Herald that my team decides not to do anyway. Or I want to be able to go towards mid lane. And remember I talked about this where a support can go straight to their lane. They aren't taking a lot of risk there, but they also aren't getting much reward either. But if you go for the bottom lane ward and the bottom pixel brush, well, you can potentially go for a gank. If it doesn't work, you just go straight down bottom. If I go to the top side of mid as a support and ward there, and I run across mid and get a gank, I went for a gank, I applied pressure, and what did I lose for it? You maybe lose a little bit on the bot side if it doesn't work, but you probably gained trading damage, you probably gave your mid laner a bit of an advantage, you maybe leached some experience at the same time, and that's debatable of whether or not that's good or bad, but you still didn't lose that much to do it, right? Don't spend too much time trying to be unpredictable. Try to optimize your time and make sure that you're constantly doing things, but if you find the opportunity to be unpredictable, to implement that, then absolutely try it. I encourage everybody to have normal games. Don't try this exactly in ranked right away, but use your comfort champions. Try to make some plays that you are going to be catching your opponent off guard with. Something that's a little bit unorthodox, right? Like going and ganking the top lane as the mid laner, or going and ganking the mid lane as the support, or even the ADC when you guys have a chance to roam. So making these types of plays gets you such a large advantage, and I highly encourage everybody today, I hope you enjoyed the lesson, but I highly encourage you as well to try this out just once and see what it does for you. And if it blows up in your face, you might want to try something else again. You might want to try the same play and figure out what went wrong. Why wasn't it the right time to do it, right? So thank you guys so much for watching here today. Congratulations once again to Atakin and Riverwitch, but also I want to thank everybody who was in this game: Green Blob, Crispy Chicken, Unskillful J, Shaprock, Asmodeus260, Illy Lisa, Brass Unicorn, and Shy Holo for all being in the chat, for all giving your IGNs, for asking questions. It's so valuable here that you guys are seeking knowledge at ProGuides, and I honestly had a blast today. I hope you guys had a blast, and I want to thank everybody here, Mikey, Christoph, for being part of the live production and helping me out here, as well as Christina. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys at home had a really good time. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time we do a live lesson. If you don't follow the YouTube channel, make sure you do. You'll get the notification when we go live. And also follow us on Instagram, because Christoph constantly posts when we're gonna be doing these live classes. So stay tuned, and I will see you guys next time.